Welcome to the Universal Freedom Network. And today we've got Solaris BlueRaven as our special guest, and it's a pleasure to have her on here today with us. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of background on Solaris. She's a published author, producer, writer, editor, and public speaker with a professional background in covert technology, surveillance, investigative research, healing modalities, and technology. She is known for her experience as a test pilot for synthetic telepathy black projects, of which she discloses in her book series, Eye of the Remote, Black Operations in Areas Beyond 52. I got to ask you about that. She is a professional psychic, clairvoyant, remote viewer, and systems buster for MK Ultra related programs and artificial intelligence connected to covert projects. Ms. BlueRaven is also a certified second-degree black belt and has an extensive background in advanced sciences and mystical alchemy. And you can visit her website at Night Shadow Anomaly Detectives. That's Night Shadow Anomaly Detectives. And again, I will put all of Solaris's links in the show notes. So anybody that wants to check that out, you will be able to do so. She also has two radio shows, one on KCOR, which is called Hyperspace, and that airs every Friday at, 12 midnight Eastern time, 9 o'clock Pacific time. And her other radio show is Ravenstar's Witching Hour, and that's every Saturday night, 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time or 9 o'clock Pacific Standard, and that's on Revolution Radio Studio A. Miss BlueRaven's books are available on Amazon.com and on Author House Books. So her books are Transmutation Through Ascension, Eye of the Remote, Black Operations in Areas Beyond 52, Mr. Sun and the Halloween Ball, Programmed by Deception, Eye of the Remote Series 2, Eye of the Remote, a Disclosure of Covert Technology DVD documentary, and 1 Million Miles to Midnight, a sci-fi 2016 publication. All right, Solaris, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for having me. It's great.
So how's everything going?
Oh, just fine. In the illusion of space and time, it's just plugging along. Living the lie, living the dream, as they say. You know, this world is so collapsed. It's so fragmented that everything feels like a false matrix. And don't get me started with the lying and the deception, but I could get into that tonight.
I know. Yes. It's crazy. You know, it's crazy in the hologram, I like to say.
Right. Yeah.
Because, that's what it is. And our perceptions can be so easily manipulated and altered as we witness every day on our mainstream media platforms and the sort of mind control technology. But would you please take us back? Now, I first became aware of you, I think in 2013, you were on Carrie Cassidy's show, the Project Camelot.
Right.
And I was very impressed with what you had to say and the way you spoke and how articulate and intelligent you were. And I remember just getting blown away by your story and how things happened to you. So anyway, take us back, as far as you want to go and kind of give us an idea of your background, some of the things you've been through, and share that with us if you would.
Sure. If you're talking about the induction itself, we can start there.
Sure.
I probably can backtrack to that level. It started in 2004, and the induction itself involved a high-profile band, Rush, Neil Peart, and Michael J. Mosbach. Initially, what I had done was send my book, Transmutation Through Ascension, to Neil Peart, due to the advice of my student, who literally said that he had lost his family. So I went ahead and sent my book to just as a nice gesture, Transmutation Through Ascension, to Neil Peart. And at that point, within like a week's time, my whole home was under surveillance. I had my phone was tagged, my computers were tagged. There were plants in the area, live plants in the area, and of course, I was actually initiated with an induction signal, which literally interfaced me on to artificial intelligence, synthetic telepathy, live feed, real time with a handler. And it sounds really complex, and you'd have to watch the documentary to get the whole idea behind it. But I literally was inducted inside of my residence in 213 Mile Circle in Superior, Colorado with this program. And the program itself is a synthetic telepathy live feed real time in a communication system. It's commands, it's programming, it's psychotronics, and remote viewing. All of these things are incorporated. SciSpy technology is also incorporated, which means you're the eyes and ears of your handler, the operators, controllers, and programmers. So it becomes very intense. I had a normal life prior to this. I had a great life. I was teaching martial arts. I was women's advanced kickboxing champion in the state of Colorado. I had a great life, land surveying with my husband and married, and literally just had everything going for me. So for this to happen to me, it really just took my life inside out and completely, extracted me out of my life. It totally erased my life to some degree and reinvented me through the communication system live feed real time on their end, not on mine. But the whole idea behind this is that it was an illegal operation that was literally done inside my residence with a remote signal, which is black satellite driven, and can be very damaging on so many different levels. People look back to the MK Ultra days and the old days, they used regular torture methods, and they take you into a room somewhere and physically hurt you. Nowadays, they remotely induct you. It's a signal interface. It's a neural weave. It can be a lot of different things when it comes down to synthetic telepathy, and it really does mess you up if you're not prepared to handle the technology. In other words, I went into trauma with a signal, but I was okay. I actually maintained because of my ability to, I think it has a lot to do with my martial arts background and a lot of my stability when it comes down to my mental body and how I function on a spiritual plane. But nonetheless, it's very, very traumatizing. I don't know if I covered exactly everything, but let me know if you have any questions.
Well, I think a lot of people would not be aware of what psychotronics are or what how the energetically or electronically how this can occur.
Right.
Because it is an energetic or electronic type invasion into a person's mind, right?
Right.
And so maybe if you could just
Sure.
sort of give us a little insight into that.
Right. And the way I describe it is that when they're remotely assessing you, they're doing a surveilling on you, your whole environment. They can remotely map your electromagnetic field remotely. They can do an assessment on your vibrational spin, your frequency, your bioelectric field, your neural activity, everything. So what they do is they remotely map you electromagnetically. They insert a signal into your neural net, literally. So you're basically being remotely brain hacked. It's a remote signal. It's a black satellite driven signal where it's literally interconnected onto the target's brainwave activity. So it's a signal interface. And once that interface happens and starts to activate, you literally are in live feed communication system with a handler normally with synthetic telepathy. So it really is a remote brain hacking. It is a remote signal. It is something that penetrates the electromagnetic field in the neural circuitry. So that's how I describe the technology, and that's how it's utilized. That is exactly what they do. So I don't know if you need any further details with that.
Yeah, and my understanding is that they can actually, when they're accessing a person, they can actually view it on a monitor.
They have remote capabilities. Absolutely, they can. They can also key log. They knew everything I was doing, and yes, that's very, very true. They can map and measure every single thing that you're doing here on the timeline. Actually, right now, in the illusion, if they really wanted to. But that's true. And once they're interconnected, you become the host. You become the computer system. So it's literally you and your operators, controllers, programmers, and handlers, and then of course an artificial intelligence array system that's interfaced onto you, which is what they did to me after the live feed programming. So I had an extra signal interface with the communication system, which was I think it was there to keep me in that space of communication when my handler wasn't around, live feed real time.
Now, how did you? Okay, two questions.
Okay.
How did you figure out what they were doing? Because obviously, there was activity in your mind, in your brain that you knew was not you.
Correct.
There was something when the interface was set up, and then why do you think they decided to target you and to zone in on you?
Okay. Well, the way they let me go back to the second one. I think that the reason that they try to target me, first of all, because of the electromagnetic field and my level of consciousness and my spiritual work. When it comes down to how they access you remotely, they're looking for a candidate to be able to hold the technology or run the technology for the interface. So I believe that on some level, I was already ready for that technology. Being a black belt and being a martial artist, I feel like I was really a candidate to the technology. And the fact of the matter is, it was very easy for me to remote view and use the interface with the live feed real time. It was almost second nature to some degree to be able to do that. So that's, to me, is why one of the reasons I feel like I was plucked out of that. And also, it was Neil Peart and Michael J. Mosbach, because had they not been involved in the induction, I would not have been pulled into that. I would have never been pulled into the induction had he not gotten involved. And these were the people that initiated the assault before other departments got involved. So that's how that rolled when it came down to what makes a candidate. I just think I fit the parameters, what they were looking for insofar as that goes. And what was your other question? I'm sorry.
I think it was how did you become aware of the?
Oh, the awareness. Well, it's really interesting because once you get plugged into this technology, you immediately know it's manufactured. In other words, I could tell it was man-made. Those of us who are natural psychics or natural remote viewers or even naturally tuned into consciousness and spirituality, it's a flowing energetic, it's a flowing signature. And even if you have telepathic messages, they're very, they're ebb and flow. There's no walkovers. This thing was totally manufactured. Right down to me remembering when they inserted the signal with the communication system live feed real time. So they opened up the channel to communicate live feed real time. And I remember them doing that. So I had awareness and was awake when they were opening up the channel to communicate with me live feed real time. And the fact of the matter is I could communicate so easily with the synthetic telepathy back and forth in remote view that I think that really was impressive to them to some degree, because like, where did she learn how to do all this stuff? But it was just one of those things I was able to navigate through. But part of it is you will know, because if you have any access to your spiritual design work, your higher self, oversoul, superconscious, when you get plugged into technology, it's such a harsh system. It's very abrasive. They're not very polite. So when you get interconnected, it's almost like some people would probably say it's a demon or it's a possession, but in fact, it was actually technological. And the reason I found out, I called it out as the first time it happened to me. I said, this is manufactured, this is man-made, this is synthetic. I knew it was. And then I just started decoding the technology later on down the road. I started talking to developers. I started talking to people like Preston Nichols later on, and a lot of different people in different areas that had some kind of insight or inkling insofar as what I was dealing with. And later on, of course, I had the signals measured. So this is all part of that process of understanding that you're not crazy, that literally something's happening to you that's technological and it needs to be assessed. And the fact of the matter is, when I was interconnected live feed real time, Michael J. Mosbach told me who he was. He announced himself. He let me know he was him. They let me know, the band members let me know that was them. And I didn't know who Michael J. Mosbach was. And then on Maui, he shows up in a person, in a real body, in a real, this is the real person who literally was there interconnecting me live feed real time with the technology. So a lot of things were said behind the scenes that most people don't realize. That's in my book, Either Remote Black Operations and Areas Bound 52, but also I've disclosed a lot of the narrative and a lot of the information that they were giving to me to confirm that that was the real party initially in 2004.
So what was their aim, do you feel like, with you? Obviously, I'm sure they weren't successful because you were on to what they were doing,
right.
And eventually you were able to, get them off your vehicle, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So what do you think they had in mind? What were they wanting to do? Was this like a, we've always heard about many of the Manchurian candidate type, control systems, that a lot of the false flag shootings that we see are so obviously, these people have been, hijacked and taken
Correct.
over and sent on missions. We have military guys and CIA guys that are sent out on missions. They don't even know what they're doing because they're compartmentalized in their consciousness.
Correct.
And so we know that kind of thing goes on. So what do you think they had in mind with what they wanted to do with you?
I think it was unlimited, to be honest with you. For me, it seemed like they were trying to recruit me for their program. In other words, when people ask me about the band themselves and why Neil Peart would be involved in this and Michael J. Mosbach, well, it's for surveillance and security, basically. It's a high-profile interface to a point where it's literally very, very effective. You don't need headsets, you don't need radios, you don't need walkie-talkies. You are there interfacing live feed real time, and you can remotely access everything around you. I mean, it's perfect, honestly. So in my opinion, I feel like they were running me through a battery of experimentation to some degree to recruit me. At one point when I met Michael in person, he asked me, he goes, "Did you send me your resume?" I mean, I'm not kidding you. This is what's so weird about these people. But the strangest thing was he was interconnected with me live feed real time. So he was almost remotely controlling me. And then when I saw him in person, it was like he was handling me to such a degree. It was like going over my head at the time. And it only took me until after I testified, after 2006 and ongoing, that I started to take my power back, started to get my calibration. But to me, it's unlimited. Yes, they can create synthetic altars. As a matter of fact, I was very concerned about being programmed and having altars running or doing, to me, I have a moral celestial compass. So I would never do anything bad. And my black belt gives me that really nice benchmark of what's right and what's not right. So I wouldn't do that. And I think that's one of the reasons I wasn't willing to play ball. I can't be programmed on that level. I can't do things that are nefarious. In other words, I'm not like that. I could never access somebody's home and remotely brain hack them and torture them out of their house. It's not me. So if he's involved in these things, that would never work. So I can see on that level where that came from. but also my abilities go way beyond all that. I mean, I can go into beyond black space program, in my opinion, because of my ability to navigate through synthetic telepathy, my remote viewing. I know that what I can do, and I was like, well, I wish I could just keep transcending and transmuting with the technology, but they wanted to handle me. And when I wouldn't comply with a lot of the handling, they would literally use signals to take me to the ground, which happened more than once. I would get vertigo often. If I pushed back, they would hit me with vertigo. I mean, they wanted to control and contain me. And it worked initially because I was in trauma in 2004. I wasn't even talking to my husband. I was so engrossed in the communication. I was so traumatized with the synthetic telepathy. Plus, they're throwing visuals back and forth, and I can remote view and I can push back with visuals. But the bottom line is you're getting bombarded, and it's like being in this virtual field 24 hours a day. My husband had no idea what had happened to me. And at that point, he thought I was being drugged. It's really a long story, and it's very tragic on some levels because my husband and I were really close. We were soulmates. We were really tight, and we were a team. And it was like, we would have never divorced. I mean, not in a, no way, you know? So that sort of thing that they can remotely access you, brain hack you, and extract you out of your home when you're in trauma and then start programming you. I mean, I honestly was signing papers I didn't even realize I was signing for my divorce. And even my lawyer said, you know what? I'm going to make you sign a waiver because you're not making rational decisions. He even told me that. And I knew it. So it was a strange scenario. But I will tell you, when people hack you like that, anything can happen. And if you're not mentally stable to begin with and you get hacked, you could probably do anything and probably what they want you to do and not remember it. Worse than scopolamine from CIA,
Yeah.
seriously. So it gets ugly, no doubt.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people don't realize that the entertainment industry is also heavily involved. Hollywood, the people in the music business, actors, even professional sports people. A lot of them are involved in these projects, and it's part of joining what I call joining the club.
Correct.
Because when you join the club, they make it very very enticing because they'll say, well, you want to join the $20 million club, this is what you got to do. And a lot of them, they get told one story at the beginning, and then when they realize that they're going to be involved with satanic type rituals and all kinds of just insane things that are totally insane to us and crazy, they actually are expected to perform along these things. And if they don't, there's a lot of consequences. It's
Correct.
unbelievable. And most people are not the slightest bit aware of what goes on these levels. I would say that the types of things that they do are beginning to come out more and more these days. We're getting to see it, and that's a great thing, because the more light that we can shine on these dark areas, the better it is for everybody. And I know that's the intent with this channel, is that we want to tell people the truth, and I know that's where you're coming from.
Right.
And the more that we can expose these types of activities and what these people are doing, hopefully we can put a stop to it one day. I mean, they're able to do what they do because it's hidden. It's it's occulted. People are not aware of it. But obviously, we want to make this much more known. We want to make it to where people have an awareness that this type of thing is going on, because it's just wrong on every level.
Oh, it's wrong on so many levels. I can tell you just from my own experience, even though I tried to make the best of the situation, that doesn't make it okay. Since I'm surprised I survived it, to be honest with you.
It's amazing. It's a testament to you as a spirit, as a soul, that you got through this, because so many people would have just been totally crushed by this, and they may have committed suicide. They may have, who knows, lots of different things. And you see that happen. You do see that happen to some people.
Oh, absolutely. They call it forced suicide. Yeah, you're right.
And a lot of people, I in the past, I've spoken a lot to Kathy O'Brien. Many people are aware of her and her situation with her daughter and all. And when they get a hold of you, when they create these altars, you're not even aware of what's going on in your own life. I mean, you may be confused by, like, what did I do yesterday? Because you have no memory of it. Because
I don't like that
wasn't you that experienced that day. There was another altar, another personality, whatever you want to call it. So it's a very insidious type of thing. And I think it really, this technology, my intuition is that this goes back thousands and thousands of years, maybe more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's something old. People. We're constantly rediscovering technology. We're constantly remembering things that we knew probably in other civilizations, other worlds, either here or somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps raising its ugly head, and we have to do
Right.
something about it, and put these kind of things where they belong, and that's get rid of them
Out of
forever.
their hands, especially. Well, the
Yeah.
interesting thing is, technology obviously could be used for good, but they're not using it on that level. At least not with
Nope.
me. I mean, they're using it to remotely control, and like you were saying, insert alters and synthetic alters. And nowadays, you can put a personality into somebody with a stream of transmission. In other words, a heterodyning program where you're literally overlaying a signal. You're mixing signals with the brain and overlaying a signal onto a healthy brainwave of a target. So that can cause a lot of problems down the road. And I, even looking back, past 2004 when I was on Maui, yes, I was there. I was witnessing my own experiences, but literally, I had so many remote control programs running, and Michael had me so handled that I don't even hardly. I'm like, I can't even believe that was me, quite honestly. And it only took like I think it was the past few years that things have been really starting to like unfold and unravel. But at the same time, I'm realizing that so much of me is in the cosmos right now, and I'm still here, but I'm almost like an after image of what I used to be. So it's very different after you go through the storm, because once you start peeling away all these programs, you're like, well, what's left? I guess the core me is still here, but it is very, very interesting how that works. And of course, mind control has been around forever when it comes down to what's been going on with Project Paperclip, and now it's
Mhm.
been morphed into this type of a warfare program. I have addressed DC about this on several occasions, 3 administrations, as a matter of fact, and nothing so far, insofar as any type of a restitution for damages or anything. But I do see that they're full speed ahead with their Black Science Department and their space program. And of course, the synthetic telepathy is perfect for astronauts, as I pointed out in my book, I the Remote. So you see where this is going.
Yeah, they're uh, doing something with the government, or looking for the government for help is it's just not going to be
That's the
effective
wrong
for us
person.
because they're in
Yeah,
on it.
so true. I learned
This
that the
is
hard way. Yeah.
yeah, this is their technology, and they're going to use it to their benefit. They could care less about about us as people. And I think Frank
That's true.
Zappa had it right when he said the military or politics is the entertainment division of the military industrial complex.
Yep,
And I really
that is
think it
true.
is. Um, I think there may be a few, very few, probably count them on both hands, people that are in government top positions that actually are trying to do the right thing.
Hmm.
And generally, they don't last long because the psychopaths that rise to the top typically will look to get rid of them one way or another.
Hmm.
And I think it's a major problem with our society in general is that I think we touched on this before one time we were talking, is that uh, the normal people who have a soul and have some conscious awareness of who they are and have a moral compass and have a conscience about things, they don't aspire to rule over anybody. They don't
Right.
aspire to achieve power or great money or wealth or any of that
Hmm.
stuff because
It's
that's
true.
all ego driven. That's the opposite spectrum of what we would consider to be goodness.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah, the
but
cosmic code is what we carry with us. That we
yes,
don't think about things like that. That's the celestial compass. I agree with you, and that's why I
yeah,
was so shocked. I was like, well, that's why I pointed it out as being wrong because of the way they misuse the technology. It's not about technology; it's how they're utilizing it and what
yep.
they're doing to people. And they thought that was funny, putting people into trauma like that, or even potentially causing harm or murder to these people. That's amusing to them. There's something wrong there.
Well,
So.
that's to me, it's the extreme opposite spectrum of where we're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
We have that soul connection to which gives us that conscious and that moral compass. They don't. They may have had it at one time, or they may never have had it, or they may have
Mm-hmm.
been traumatized as children and they just went down that opposite path.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that uh, they go to the exact extremes. They want to defile everything that's sacred. They want to destroy anything and everything that has goodness attached to it and control and manipulate to the maximum power. And the psychopathic mentality, which is what we're describing here, will always try and rise to the top. And the strange thing is that these types of individuals, they recognize they don't call it that, of course, but they
Mm-hmm.
recognize those what they would call abilities in others to be completely ruthless and heartless. And they help each other rise to the top. And
Mm-hmm.
they cooperate with each other, they work with each other. where, we don't do that. And that's one thing that we need to start doing is we need to start working together in our communications and things that we do so that we can, we don't we don't seek to rule anybody, but we certainly
Right.
need to create a huge awareness of what they're doing so that we can put a stop to it. When you look at there's two really big levels of existence or experience in the human on this plane, and then one is the sort of local, your family, your friends, people you work with, people you interact with on a daily basis, and on that level, most people are really really good.
Hmm.
Most people have great hearts, and it's so nice to just meet a stranger in an elevator and say hello, how's your day? That kind of thing
Hmm.
is just
Right.
on the micro level. We're doing pretty good, but on the macro level, on the top level, we've got these psychopaths running things, and they're creating war after fear after
Hmm.
fear. This is their mode of operation, and
Right.
this is how they control the people through fear
Hmm.
and and constant war. Now, see, war does a lot
Yep.
of things for them. It makes them very wealthy. They own the corporations, they own the banks, they own all of
Hmm.
these things that profit from the misery of humans. And
Right.
until we can achieve that awareness, that consciousness of what's been done to us, then we're not going to put a stop to it. So I think,
Hmm.
people like us are on that trajectory of wanting to share that information and help others see what's going on, because
Yeah.
it's kind of like what Gandhi did in India.
Hmm.
Uh, People say, well, you can't get rid of the British. They control everything. But if you stop cooperating with them,
Hmm.
imagine this country of 300 million people just said, nope, not
Right.
cooperating.
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
No,
It's
that's true.
over.
No, I
It's
agree.
over at that
It's
point.
taking your own power back, literally stepping up into your own power and stepping into your own power. There's no doubt. That's why I was saying at the beginning of the show, I was saying living the lie, because not that I'm living the lie, but we are subjected to nothing but propaganda 24 hours a day. It's been there since we were born in the illusion of on this
Right.
timeline, and we've been subjected to it. I always thought the world was great. I always thought, we had no crime and our government was clean. I had this big hurrah, hurrah,
Sure.
kind of. I didn't understand they had covert warfare departments. I never knew about these nefarious projects. I had to decode and actually experience these things firsthand. So it's really interesting how we've been kind of just completely lied to such a degree. It's unbelievable. The mass hypnosis is unbelievable.
It really is. And that's a perfect way to describe it, because it is a mass hypnosis. And the events like 9/11 are completely, they're massive traumatic events and that type of trauma, uh, really contributes to that mass hypnosis, because it puts people in a state of fear,
Hmm.
and they don't understand what's happened. And of course, they come out with the mainstream story, which is absolutely ridiculous, and can be proved 100 times why it's a total lie. But again, as long as these people are in power, they can cover whatever they do, and we can
Hmm.
uncover whatever they do. But until we get to a certain level of enough people understanding it, nothing's going to change. I mean,
Hmm.
all of the truth right now, this is very exciting to me, because 30 years ago, I would have told you, we're doomed
Hmm.
completely. It's just at some point they're just going to push the reset button and it'll be all over. But
Right.
uh, as it's happened before.
Hmm.
But now I'm seeing that with social media, with the internet and all that, we are getting information out there, but it's still not to that point yet that it's hit the mass. I don't know what that tipping point is. Do you have any idea? What do you think? What do you think it's going to
You
take
know,
before we get to that point where we're just beyond being, total slaves, and
right.
we're starting to take our power back?
I think it's going to be between, well, it's coming up between 2020 and 2022. I think that's going to be the tipping point right there. I'm also looking at outside this perimeter of this world, and incoming transmissions and also possible beings. And we are an extension of that to some degree. But I do feel like there's going to be some big shifting, because we reached that implosion level. We were almost there to such a degree that something needs to give in order for us to keep evolving and ascending. And a lot of what I see has always been about breakaway societies, but breakaway civilizations, and also living off planet versus living here. So if things get that rough here and that non-productive, that we have a celestial heritage, in my opinion, that will authorize and allow us to live off planet. I know that sounds really out there, but to me that feels right, and that's what I look at as well.
Okay, so let's explore that a little bit. What kind of, information, either intuitively or directly, what kind of communications are you getting, and if any, from outside of our plane of existence
Okay.
here?
For me, it's not about communication. It's just about gnosis. It's about just understanding the bigger scenery. And the bigger scenery tells me that we, as a civilization, as star beings, should be living off planet soon because of what's going on here. If we can get everything under control and expose everything for what it is and have a balance here, that's great. But in my opinion, we're going to have a lot more turmoil, globally speaking, and it will be very, very hard for people to understand what's really happening. They'll wake up, but they might wake up in the midst of a battlefield. So what I look at, I'm looking at the bigger picture, the real big picture, and the bigger picture, in my opinion, is living off world. Also seeing a transformation of this one to a level of not transhumanism, but actually more in alignment with the universal flow. I don't see a bigger population. I see a less population. So we do see things that are happening where in my opinion, this world is going to change and allow for people to be what they were supposed to be as what I call star people. But I feel like it's going to be a stormy road. I mean, we're seeing the signs already. You don't even have to be an empath to see this. So, I can see where you could see the doom and gloom thing around the corner because here we're in turmoil and the resistance level for this is unbelievable.
Yeah, and we literally, there is a battle going on. Again, people aren't aware of it either, but uh, and the end game is hard to comprehend because for the psychopaths, it's hard to understand where they're coming from because besides power and control, that's easily understandable. But the fact that we're being bombarded and poisoned, there's the slow kill agenda, the
Right.
eugenics slow kill agenda that's going on with the chemtrail spraying, the fluoride in the water, the GMO foods, the glyphosate in our now is everywhere in our
Mm-hmm.
food supply is loaded with glyphosate, which is a disruptor of our endocrine system. So and this has been allowed. This has not happened by accident. This is something that was pushed out there all over the country and all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Some countries have had the wherewithal to ban Monsanto and glyphosate, but it's still there. And my understanding is it takes years to get rid of that residue. Even though you may stop using that substance, it's still in the soil. It's still in a lot of things.
Right.
And we are under attack, literally. It's very subtle, to the average person, unless they're looking for these types of things, they're not necessarily going to catch on. And then there's the whole pharmaceutical industry, which is using our healthcare system to attack people as well with these toxic, poisonous, oil-based drugs, synthetic
Mm-hmm.
drugs. So, we are literally under attack. And so that makes me wonder, okay, they're doing all these things, but they're also destroying their own environment. We
Correct.
are polluting our environment. Our waters are, polluted. We have to pay to get decent water or make it ourselves. It's just so beyond comprehension why anybody would do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we have these, the pollution is intensely terrible. And so, what is their end game if they're destroying us slowly and they're destroying the environment? What's the purpose of that?
Right.
What?
Yeah, I think it's a mess. I think it's just because they do it because they can, first of all, because nothing's stopping them. They have the technology, they have the means, they have the networking to be able to pull it off. It is a slow kill because, in my opinion, I believe that they enjoy that. They enjoy torturing people. They enjoy harming them and making them feel miserable, and also experimentation to see if what happens on a lot of different levels. In my opinion, there are a lot of breakaway societies already that are connected to the 1%, which means that these guys can get off planet when they want to. And if it really gets rough for them, they're gone. They're going to be someplace else. I know we have the technology, so
Yeah. Well,
that's what
there,
I
there,
see.
trillions of dollars have gotten poured into these programs, and
Mm-hmm.
so they're obviously doing something with it. There's a lot of evidence of advanced technologies, even going back to ancient India with these the flying vehicles that they
Mm-hmm.
taught, the
Right.
vimanas, I guess they're called, and other things like that. We know that in the 30s that the Germans had anti-gravity craft. There lots of pictures of them. People have written about them. So you can imagine where it's at now. I mean, it's,
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about, you mentioned Preston Nichols, and there's Al Bielek and,
Mm-hmm.
Duncan Cameron, all these guys are involved with Montauk. That's a whole other thing involving time travel and, the use of these technologies like, the chair that they sat in
Right, Montauk chair.
yeah, and my understanding is that program they actually brought in some kind of huge monster, a physical
Well,
monster.
yeah, ripping tears and the illusion of fabric of space and time, but also I don't discount psychotronic weapons
Yeah,
because that can create the illusion of seeing something as well. So who knows? But working with
yeah.
holograms, holographic technologies, and yeah, all kinds of things can happen.
But we can only imagine where that their technology is now. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just laughable to me to see, the public NASA. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
come on, rockets. That's their advanced technology.
Right.
According to the public.
Yeah.
And this whole thing with the Elon Musk, and it's just an absurd joke on
Mhm.
humanity that people
Yeah, it's a
think that
dog and
this is
pony
the
show.
state of the art.
Right.
This is just a total bogus show.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we there's obviously craft. I mean, anybody that gets a infrared scope and
Mm-hmm.
binoculars and looks at night, you'll see so much stuff flying around out there. It'll just blow your mind.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where you are. If you get a fairly clear view of the sky, you're going to see tons of stuff flying around
Mm-hmm.
up in the sky.
Yeah, it's
So
very busy.
we we know that there's a huge amount of things going on all the time. It would be great to find out more about these things, and we are a little bit here and there, drips out here, drips out there, but we certainly don't have the big picture of what's happening with any of that or what the end game is, and that I think it's very frustrating for those of us who can uh, see beyond a lot of the basic programming that humanity has.
Mm-hmm. Right. I agree. Yeah.
So, uh, you know, where do we go from here? What do you think?
Well, like I said, for me, I believe that the best solution would be living off planet. That's the solution to the equation. In the meantime, we put the truth out, we hold integrity, we keep the integrity, and for myself, anyways, and I keep the information circulating so that people are aware of what's happening here. I've contacted everyone I can think of to try to awaken people to the fact that things need to change, that there's a misuse of technology, of covert warfare is going on, psychotronic weapons are hitting people discreetly, and a lot of things are happening here that need to change. So all I can do is hold my ground on that level, and I think that that's what's happening here. And of course, we have to navigate in higher frequency bands, so they're not getting pulled into their distortions and their gravity wells, because right now this is a maelstrom. And for the future, like I said, the future, in my opinion, is advanced technology the right way, and also transmutation, but working off planet in their galactic neighborhood like we're supposed to be doing, without this false matrix and the lie and the deception.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's real important for people, even if they don't agree with a lot of things that they hear that are new to them, to try and keep an open mind and have the ability to uh, consider information. If when people are highly programmed, they'll just dismiss anything that goes against their programming, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge issue for human beings because whether it's a religious programming or the wacademia, I call it, for
Right.
science, those kinds of things where, they just say, well, this is what science says. And it's all theory. They
Mm-hmm.
can't prove any of it, but, they teach it to you as if it's fact.
Right.
So people are programmed with all these things. And then when they encounter information that is contrary to that or that questions that, then they have a problem with it and they'll just dismiss it. So if we can get people to be a little more open-minded and at least consider other things, we should be able to, if we get new and better information, we should be able to replace the old information and not feel bad about it because
Right.
that's just part
Yeah.
of the experience of we're learning and growing, and a huge part of it is remembering what we already knew and reconnecting with the wisdom and the knowledge that we've had from on the highest level of our true self, our spirit self.
Mm-hmm. Very
And
true.
I am encouraged that I think that we're making progress now where we weren't for so long. I'm just I want to speed it up. Let's get
Right.
this puppy rolling here.
Yeah.
Let's create something that's really wonderful because we have all that potential.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth could be such a beautiful place and a wonderful place, and then the thought occurs to me sometimes, well, maybe it's never meant to be that. Maybe it's just meant to be sort of a testing ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, well, there's a spiritual school. We come in here and we're exposed to all the extremes. We find the goodness in our lives with the interactions, our personal interactions with other people. But at the same time, on the macro level, we see the atrocities, committed by these control systems.
Right.
And so it makes me think, well, maybe this is never going to be what we want it to be, that the real intent here is learning and trying to maintain your own integrity, your own moral compass in spite of what's going on in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know if anybody really knows
Right.
outside of the ones who are, controlling the narrative here.
Well, I think that intuitively speaking, we're not supposed to be here. That we really don't have to play this game on this illusion of a planet. That's my own take, anyway. After where
Yeah.
I've been, I feel like the whole thing has been a false construct and a lie. And that now that we've understood what's here, it's kind of like ruins. We're just observing the ruins here on the timeline. But there's a future. There's an infinite future out there in all different worlds and realities. So it just depends on where we're heading, where we want to go and what state of consciousness we want to be in. For me, I don't want to live in turmoil. I don't want to live in violence. I don't want to live in the type of nefarious things that they're involved in. So we have to move to the next level, which is really a higher overtone of being multidimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what I see.
Do you ever get the feeling that you volunteered to come in here and help the situation to the best of your ability? Do you ever get that feeling?
I kind of get that, and I probably have, but I don't know why. But I can understand now what looking at the polarity and the things that have happened to me along the timeline. So that's probably it. But yeah, it was never meant to be long term, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I get those thoughts too, and then I think to myself, what was I thinking?
Yeah, really, I'm definitely there now.
What made me think that was a good idea?
Right, right.
But yeah, it's crazy, and I suspect that when we pop out of this world and out of these avatar bodies that we have, that we just kind of go, that was interesting.
I don't know if I'll say interesting, but boy, oh boy, yeah, what a ride! No doubt
Yeah,
about
what
that
a ride! Because it's a virtual reality. We mimic it with our little
Mm-hmm.
technology toys of virtual reality, but we really are in a virtual reality.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The
They've
most
learned
amazing advanced virtual reality, and then that brings us to a lot of people think this hologram is completely artificial and created by some massive computer consciousness AI system.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't dismiss that. It's a definite possibility, that we have been either voluntarily or not non-voluntarily injected in this system.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes you think too. There's a lot of evidence of that, and even some more mainstream scientists have discovered the holographic encoding of a lot of things.
And that I definitely resonate with, the holographic world. And that's what we're living in. It's just like the holodeck. You manifest your reality and it shows up. But at the same time, they've really fine-tuned and understand the mechanics behind how we can manifest realities. So we have all these alternate realities simultaneously imploding here on the timelines, fake timelines, so to speak. And look what mankind's done. He's created all these lies and deception. We've got all this layering going on of false matrices, so it's all collapsing. But yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and the brain is a transceiver and it's a transceiver, receiver and transmitter. So, we're going both ways. And when you realize without the brain, there's nothing. That is what creates our reality. The encoding of the vibrations and frequencies that we're picking up in our brain is what creates our reality. So that is what creates the hologram. It's the interface to the hologram.
Yeah, very true. And that's what's so interesting about them brain hacking, because it's such a sacred temple. The body is such a sacred temple, and the brain itself, I mean, but they screw me up. I mean, they brain hack me and they're controlling my central nervous system. If something goes wrong, that's dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah, and that kind of kind of thing is just should never be allowed in this world. And again, until people have that awareness, so they're just going to be able to get away with everything, and it's just so frustrating. It's like,
Yeah.
that's not right.
Well, they get away with it because they're high-profile entertainment. They got away with it because of their position in the Illusion of, and Mossbach's background, because it's very connected to military, law enforcement, DC. He's connected to everybody. So all these people have a capability to cover their tracks, and you'll notice this more and more, that when you try to turn anybody in who's high profile, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be dead in the water. My case was shoved under the carpet, and I just put the truth out in my books, and the whole time they're calling me all sorts of names and trying to do a character assassination against me and everything else over the years, which is just ridiculous. I mean, some of the things that they pulled, but and some people ask me how I connected with Pert initially, and I think I probably should add to this that initially back in the 80s, I had a correspondence with him, so he knew who I was.
So
And this is
that's
because
the drummer with Rush, the band
correct,
Rush.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so bottom line is when I back in the 80s, people used to say I wrote like him. I guess that's a compliment. I don't know, but and I never even knew who Rush was. And they said, well, this is they played 2112 and that Rush album, and then they told me that you write like Neil Peart, and I was like, okay, well, let's listen to the music. So I heard it, and then he was doing some kind of a drum solo contest, and I sent in, just as a joke, my poetry, see what he said. Well, he sent me back these postcards, so I started getting correspondence with him back and forth over the years, which kind of like I would send him something and he would send me a postcard back. So it was ebb and flow. And this is one of the reasons why when I sent him my book, Transmutation Through Ascension, after I heard his family had gotten killed out in Canada, or the daughter did, I felt guided to send it, just in spirit. But that's one of the reasons people ask me how that correlation happened. How did you know who Neil Peart was, and how do you know who you were? And that's what it was. So I just want to make sure I mentioned that briefly. And I won't even get into the nefarious projects associated with his past family, which were taken out, connected to the technology I was interfaced with.
Now, do you think somebody like him, is this something that he looked to get into? Was this in his family line? A lot of the Illuminati families and all that, they perpetuate this whole system, and they actually allow their own kids to be tortured and indoctrinated into these systems. Do you know if he was belonged to one of those families, or was it a result of him being in the music and entertainment field, and it just went along with fame and fortune?
I think it comes into his bloodline. I think there's a lot connected to his bloodline, which connects into some of these technologies, and also some of that brotherhood, sisterhood thing that he's got going on with not necessarily Masons, but some nefarious organizations. So I would say that's part of it. Also, the high end of it with the indoctrination of entertainment industry. He also was into experimentation insofar as the way the technology works. I know he was working on this technology prior to when they inducted me, so he had to be involved in it for at least 30 years. So in my opinion, I think they got involved in it as they were progressing in the industry, and they realized how fun it could be to ping people and to do surveilling on people, and then all of a sudden they're getting access to people, and then all of a sudden it becomes this interface, and then sometimes it's recruitment, or maybe they want to, I don't know, have a rendezvous with somebody. Who knows where they're going to go with it, but I think it got to be an addiction to a level where it was out of control with this band, and Mossbach was out of control, and something should have stopped them from doing what they did to me, but nothing did.
Yeah. Oh, it's just crazy. And then there's a lot of evidence coming out now, and I think a couple books have been written about how the CIA in California, I think it was Laurel Canyon.
Oh yeah.
Where they actually had a CIA office there, and they were heavily involved with a lot of the bands that came out in the 60s, like the Doors and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Janis Joplin. I'm sure they wrangled Jimi Hendrix in there somewhere, and a bunch of other people. And many of them, their families were actually high up in the military. Their parents, either fathers. I think Jim Morrison of the Doors, his father was an admiral in the Navy.
They were high profile.
And so they were recruited as a result of this interaction between the military, the CIA, and the entertainment industry, and it's only gotten worse from there. And I always want to remind people, because a lot, this makes sense when you understand it. It's a lot of people don't understand that at the end of World War II, in 1947, we had Operation Paperclip, in which we brought over a lot of the top Nazi scientists to this country. Many of them went to Russia, but I think a lot of the the worst of the worst came here, and they started both NASA and the CIA. And when you understand that Nazi mindset was indoctrinated and was a founding attribute of these organizations, it seems to make a lot more sense. And they've only gotten worse, as time has gone on. And now they're really autonomous. There is no government control over the CIA. The CIA controls most of the government.
Oh yeah, they do whatever they want.
They do whatever they want, and there's no accountability. There's nothing like that.
Very true.
There is a lot, going in our favor. There's a lot of internal squabbling and power struggles between those groups. And I think that's a good thing, because as they're arguing amongst themselves, it maybe will slow them down in some way or another. But
Very true.
The interface between the entertainment industry, the sports industries, and the CIA, intelligence groups and all that, it's all one big massive system on the highest levels. And that's not to say, your local football or your local sports organizations, they don't have anything to do with that. But at the highest levels of entertainment, of sports, politics, intelligence, it's all intertwined, and it's all part of one big system.
Right.
And now, I think that much of it, my understanding is, much of the social engineering that's going on on our social media is being actually managed by AI. And because of the proliferation of our social medias like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all these different things, it's creating massive amounts of data to program these AI systems with. And now they know exactly how humans operate.
It's all an algorithm. Yeah,
and they can predict what people are going to do next based on the input that they're constantly getting from all of us. And I saw a thing the other day that said, if you ever install, pretty much any of these social media things on your computer, even if you delete it or you think you delete it, it's still there monitoring you.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
it's still there, listening on your phone, listening on your home computer. And I'm sure that's absolutely true as well.
There's always a record. Yeah, there's a backdoor.
And so anybody that, they decide to go after, they've got years and years of phone calls, text messages, emails, communications of every type.
Right.
And, it's just so annoying to realize how incredibly surveilled we are at every level.
Very much so.
Right. So now if we can just all get our Faraday cages going.
Something, definitely. Yeah.
Surround our houses with new metal or mu metal, whatever it's called, that blocks all that kind of stuff. It would be great, but it's not realistic, unfortunately, in this world to live. We are without that stuff. We've all gotten used to it. There are some actual benefits which we talked about in the communication area, because now we are able to share information like we're doing here,
right?
Which we weren't able to do before.
Yeah, that's so true. That's the nice part of the technology. Like I said, technology can be used for positive things. Even synthetic telepathy. I mean, the aspects of using technology, interfacing with machines, and even like as an astronaut, you can interface off planet, so you don't have to worry about your communication. There are benefits to some degree, but the way they're using things now are very, very twisted and manipulative.
So, do you know anything about the Denver airport? Have you looked into any of that?
Oh, I know. We have a little talking gargoyle now. You know what?
I just saw
it is what it is. This whole area does beta testing. I've mentioned it before, but the whole state of Colorado is involved in nefarious tests, some subliminal transmissions. We were the first, Boulder County, I believe, was the first to have the smart grid or the smart town, what you want to call it. They had that going on. So all of these things are literally experimental. There are a lot of experimental things happening here. Plus, there's some story about some nefarious activities that happen here and there in Denver and other areas. So yeah, I don't dive too deeply into it, but coming where I came from, I mean, as far as the induction goes, even though it was from California, they didn't do anything to stop it here in Colorado. So, yeah.
Yeah, interesting, those programs. Now, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned when I read your title, it said Beyond Area 52.
Right.
We all have heard of Area 51, which is not that far from where I'm at. But tell us a little bit about the 52, and there's probably other numbers out there, right?
Right. The Area 52 was just literally my way of noticing that the interface itself was more than just a reverse engineer technology that was very exotic, and that the event itself was something that they were keeping a good eye on in DC. So to me, it was way beyond areas 51, 52. I mean, this was something very new, a very new experimental technology that I was interfacing with, and I feel like it was a real interesting thing for them, because when I remember how DC was monitoring me with Mossbach at the time I was inducted. So going through the SciSpy and some of the nicknames they called me, some of the things I remember, that I don't want to say black space program, super soldier stuff, but I will say it was very interesting. And I have vague remembrances of imagery and things that I know were real life feed, imagery that I found to be very exotic and very off-world. So to me, it feels like this is something that's way beyond the matrix of these experimental areas that we are familiar with here, even the black sites that they talk about. And that's why I put Beyond Area 52, because to me it was way beyond that. It was way beyond. I mean, when you're interfacing to this degree with technology that's so exotic, and it's not just about hearing something in your head, but literally the capabilities, that's mind-blowing. I mean, literally, no pun intended, but it's something. So that's why I put it in there.
I can only imagine how crazy it must have seemed to you, especially if they're projecting images at you.
Oh yeah, but I could move them back and forth. The thing is, we could do it. We could move the imagery back and forth. But I realized the more I started to do that, the more they would weaponize it like a video game. They started to create more programs, and then they would, it's like the more you interact, the more entangled you get. So I had to be very careful about what I was sending. But and that's also part of their way of pushing back and keeping you contained. Also, it's just like a little chess game from a computer.
That's amazing that you had the strength to get through that, because
it is amazing, like I said, but it's taken its toll over the years. That was when I was 40. I just turned 40 when that happened. As a matter of fact, it was on my birthday, and of course the years now, it's a long road. Yeah, I'm still around, but yeah.
Well, I love what you do. I think it's wonderful. I encourage people to check out your radio shows, check you out on Amazon, check you out on all your websites. And I'm going to make sure I get links to everything in the show notes so that people can, get more information about you and read your books and check out more information, because there's always more.
Yes, absolutely. It's infinite.
So I think we'll wrap it up here. And I want to thank you once again. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you and to share information with you. And I look forward to doing it again sometime in the near future. And for now, say goodbye to everybody. And,
all right. Hey, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.